hear words in groups of 3, we fall asleep?
No. Yes.
Repeat.
Repeat. All right, here we go. Take your medicine. The night of the city council meeting, Mom and Marshall put me in the shower, washed me all over with stinky soap, and clipped my nails. Then they used the red plastic dryer with its long, pointed nose and horrible hot breath to dry me off. I was very upset by all this until Mom dangled some cheese in front of my nose. Poor Lance, here's some cheese to make you feel better, she said. Just after the sun went down, Miss Jenaia picked us all up in the Critican van. The drive to the center of town was very quiet until we turned onto the street beside City Hall. Then there were lots of cars and people walking on the sidewalks. Looks like we're going to have a full house tonight, said Miss Jenaia. After we found a place to park, we walked to City Hall. The entrance was being guarded by 2 police officers. Lucky for us, one of them was a nice policewoman from the dog park. She recognized me right away and shook my paw. Nice to see you again, Lance, she said. Go right on in. All your buddies are already here. City Hall is a big room with a lot of chairs facing the stage. The chairs are divided down the middle by a strip of red carpet. We walked down the carpet to the front seats where all the kids and dogs from Critican class were waiting. While Miss Jenaia said hi to the kids, I said hello to Mortimer and all the dogs. It is exciting, is it not? Mortimer snuffled in his French accent. Perhaps we shall become the big stars tonight. Perhaps, I said, lying down beside him. But something tells me this is going to be a long night. The city council had a lot of work to do. There was a call to order, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, roll call, and reports from the mayor, city attorney, and city clerk. I thought Mrs. Crutch's law would be the first thing they discussed, but they talked about parking tickets, traffic signs, and building permits. By the time Mrs. Crutch finally began describing her anti-pit bull bill, I was half asleep. Wake up, my friend, said Mortimer, touching me with his nose. Mrs. Crutch, she is talking. Mrs. Crutch talked for a long time about the dangers of owning pit bulls. She showed pictures of people with dog bites and talked about how pit bulls cannot be trusted. When she was finished, people all around us were muttering and sounded upset. Then it was Miss Jenaia's turn. Miss Jenaia stood up in her overalls and work boots, put her hands in her pockets, and smiled. My name is Miss Jenaia, and I was a teacher in this town for more than 30 years. Now I own a small dog training school called Critican, where I teach people and dogs how to live happily together. But would it surprise you to learn that most people need more training than their dogs? Everyone in the room laughed, and I could feel some of the tension leaving. Good, good, good.
Good, good, good.
I woofed. Miss Jenaia was doing good. The reason is simple, Miss Jenaia continued. People are complicated. Dogs are not. How many of you have or know dogs? Raise your hands, please. Almost every hand was raised, including Mrs. Crutch's. Can some of you describe your dogs? Playful, shouted one man. Loving, said another. Energetic, called a third. Now the words started coming fast. Mischievous, silly, eager to please, beggar, friendly, lazy, bed hog, hyper, spoiled, naughty, goofball, lapdog, strong, big baby, food thief, bull in a china shop, loud, protective, funny, snuggle bunny, chow hound. Phew. The list got longer and longer until Miss Jenaia said, okay, thank you. How many of you heard anything really negative said about dogs? No one raised their hand and the room was very quiet. That's because dogs are basically good. They love people. They want to please. And if we teach them what we want, they'll do it. How many of you can say that about other people? Everyone laughed again, but Mrs. Crutch stopped them. That doesn't change the fact that pit bulls are dangerous, she said loudly. Oh, but it does, said Miss Jenaia. Pit bulls are dogs. The only way a pit bull or any other dog becomes dangerous is if a person teaches it to be. I know from personal experience that pit bulls are dangerous, said Mrs. Crutch. A pit bull bit my brother. I'm sorry you had a bad experience with one dog, Miss Jenaia said, but imagine how you'd feel if you were asked to leave town. We're talking about the safety of our children, Mrs. Crutch said. I think we're talking about fear, said Miss Jenaia. In my Critterkin Kids class, we call fear the emotional flu. With your permission, Mayor Cummings, I'd like the kids from my class to show you their cure for fear. This doesn't have anything to do with my bill, Mrs. Crutch protested, but the mayor interrupted her. Mayor, where are you?
It has everything to do with it, Dorothy L. Please sit down, he said.
He said.
Go on, Miss Jenaia.
Miss Jenaia turned to the kids. Let's do it, guys, she grinned. The kids gathered our leashes and led us up onto the stage in front of the city council. When we were all lined up in a row, Miss Jenaia nodded to Mackenzie. Mackenzie stepped forward with Mortimer beside her.
My name is Mackenzie, and this is Mortimer. We're in Miss Jenaia's Critterkin class. We study a lot of things about dogs, for example, body language and healthcare. But this most thing we learned with ours, Mackenzie stepped back into line as Miss Jenaia nodded at Danny.
Okay, good. Danny?
My name is Danny, and this is my dog, Scooter. Mrs. Jenaia called him a problem child because he barked and jumped on people. Scooter needed to learn the first R, respect, but I need to learn the second, repeat, Danny. Repeat. Danny stepped back into the line and Mrs. Jenaia nodded at Kimmy.
Good job. Kimmy?
Aren't you Kimmy?
My name is Kimmy, and this is Lucky. Lucky is a good dog, but he's kind of like Scooter. He forgets things a lot. I have to be patient and use the second R, repeat, so he won't forget. Teaching Lucky taught me to be patient with people too. He's a good teacher. Kimmy stepped back in line, and Miss Jenaia nodded at Brendan.
Good job.
My name is Brendan, and this is Baby Girl. My family adopted her from the shelter. She was scared of everything, so we brought her to Critterkin class. Mrs. Jenaia taught us the third R, reward. We started rewarding Baby Girl for taking baby steps. That means trying new things even if you're scared. It's a good lesson for everybody. Brendan stepped back in line and Miss Jenaia nodded at Paul.
My name is Paul, and this is my dog Hipster. Even though Hipster looks big and scary, we call him the gentle giant. If you rub his belly or scratch his back, he groans. Want to see? Paul bent down and rubbed Hipster's back. Hipster immediately closed his eyes and started to make happy sounds deep in his throat. Everyone laughed. Hipster taught me to never judge a book by its cover. Paul stepped back in line and Miss Jenaia nodded at Rennie.
Rennie and I stepped forward and I sat down on her right side.
My name is Rennie, and said Rennie in a small, unsteady voice. I could feel how scared she was and gently nuzzled her hand.
Take a deep breath and try again, Rennie, Miss Jenaia said. You can do this. Rennie cleared her throat and started again.
My name is Rennie, and this is my best friend, Lance. He's a pit bull. Before we met Mrs. Crutch, I never heard a pit bull. Lance was just Lance. The worst thing he ever did was bury my shoes. Now, Miss Crutch says he's dangerous, but how does she know? She's never met him.
Rennie stepped back into line and Miss Jenaia faced the audience again. That's just about it, except for two things. Some of you may have heard of our Sit for a Pit campaign. It was an idea the kids came up with to get people to sign our petition and learn about pit bulls. The petition is simple. It says, we do not support a law that would keep pit bulls out of our city. We believe each dog deserves to be judged based on its individual personality and behavior. I have the petitions right here, and I'm proud to say there are more than 2,000 signatures. Miss Jenaia handed the folder with the signed petitions to Mayor Cummings. Then she turned to the City Council. The last thing I'd like to suggest is that Mrs. Crutch take some medicine for her emotional flu.
Carter.
Mayor.
What do you have in mind?
It was actually Rennie's idea, Miss Jenaia said, so I'll let her tell you. Beside me, Rennie swallowed hard and screwed up her courage. I knew she was as scared of Mrs. Crutch as Mrs. Crutch was of me.
Miss Crutch, I want you to meet Lance and shake his paw.
Absolutely not, Mrs. Crutch said, turning red. That dog is filthy.
He's not. Rennie said we gave him a bath today. Oh,
Oh, go on. What can it hurt? Someone called from the audience. Yes, what can it hurt? Said one of the council members. You can do it, Mom, Sheila Crutch yelled. She was sitting with her friends near the back of the room.
well, what do you
No. Mayor.
What do you say, Dorothy? The mayor said.
Let's see.
Did you get the second part? The dog seems...
The dog seems harmless enough.
In the end, it was Rennie who found the courage to take the first baby step. First, she turned to me and firmly said,
stay with the
Stay.
palm
Yeah.
of her hand directly in front of her as
Next, she took a deep breath and walked over to the city council table.
Miss Crutch,
Mrs. Crutch looked a little shocked, but after a second, she shook Rennie's hand.
Mrs. Crutch looked a little shocked, but after a second she shook Rennie's hand. How do you do, Rennie? She said. It's nice to meet you.
Rennie. Go, Rennie.
I'd like to introduce you to my friend Lance, Rennie said. He's very friendly and knows how to shake.
I'd rather not, if you don't mind. I am not fond of dogs. That's when Rennie did the bravest thing of all. She leaned across the table and whispered in Mrs. Crutch's ear.
It's okay to be scared. I was scared too, but you can do it. I know you can.
Mrs. Crutch jerked her head back and stared at Rennie. Then she swallowed hard, got to her feet, and walked slowly around to the front of the table. Rennie took her hand and guided her over to where I was sitting.
Miss Crutch, I'd like you to meet my best friend Lance. Lance, I'd like you to meet my new friend, Mrs. Crutch.
I was sitting as still as I could so I wouldn't scare Mrs. Crutch, but I wagged my tail to show I was friendly.
See, he's happy to meet you.
He's...
Rennie said. He's wagging his tail.
Yes, I see.
Yes, I see. Now you can shake his paw.
I don't think I can.
It's okay, let me show you. Rennie said.
She bent down, held out her hand, and said,
Shake Lance.
I immediately put my paw in her hand and she gave it a good hard shake.
Now you try.
When Mrs. Crutch didn't move, Rennie gently took her hand and held it out to me.
Shake Lance.
I put my paw in Mrs. Crutch's hand. She was so scared, she was shaking. Wow, wow, wow.
Wow, wow, wow.
I thought as I waited for her to shake. Gently, Rennie closed Mrs. Crutch's fingers around my paw and lifted her arm up and down.
See, you did it.
Behind us, the audience started to applaud and whistle. Mrs. Crutch released my paw, stood up, and gave everyone a weak smile. And that, my friends, is the story of how I became a super smart, stunningly handsome, extra special pit bull, and how Mrs. Crutch learned to take her medicine. Woohoo! So, do we want to read the epilogue?
Yes!
What's an epilogue?
End of the story. It's kind of like a sequel.
Yeah, sequel is really a lot longer. How about can we call it an after story? After story, or maybe it's like a PS at the end of a letter, only it's the end of the book. Not bad.